US President Joe Biden will address the United Nations General Assembly in just a few hours from now. At the summit, President Biden's expected to push back against the idea that the United States is plunging into a new Cold War with rivals including China and Russia. Reports suggest Biden will instead stress diplomacy and vigorous competition in his speech at the annual UN summit. A senior Washington official has told the news agency AFP President Biden will communicate that he does not believe in the notion of a new Cold War with the world divided into blocs. The official went on, he believes in vigorous, intensive, principled competition. So we expect the president to try and drive home the message that ending the war in Afghanistan closed a chapter focused on war and opens a chapter focused on personal, purposeful, effective American diplomacy. This has been confirmed by the White House press secretary as the way that the day is expected to play out.
He will make absolutely clear that he is not looking to pursue a new Cold War with any country in the world. We will continue to pursue our interests. We will continue to lift up global priorities, but that is not the objective or the policy of the United States.
In his first address to the United Nations as US President, Joe Biden will stress that Washington will work with allies and partners to solve problems that can't be solved by military force. Ahead of his first speech as president at the UNGA, Joe Biden has also met with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York. Biden said a strong partnership with the UN was more important now than ever, and that no one country can solve key problems alone.
The Secretary General and I share a strong commitment to the principles of human freedom and human dignity on which the UN was founded. I went back and reread the Charter. I remember we sometimes forget what the founding principles were, not you, we, the world. Every UN member state likewise has an obligation to uphold those fundamental commitments and that we've all made. And normally the task is already ahead for each one of us, and it's real.
Following his UNGA address, President Biden will meet Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison in New York before returning to Washington to meet British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Now, the UNGA takes place less than a month after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan, ending a 20-year war. The speech gives Biden his biggest opportunity yet to talk about the direction of US foreign policy. There's been criticism at home and abroad that the US troop withdrawal from Afghanistan in August was chaotic and poorly planned, leaving behind some US citizens and Afghan allies who could face reprisals from the Taliban. So it could be a challenging week for the US president that will be dominated at times by foreign policy. Amid questions around his handling about the US pullout from Afghanistan, he's also likely to face questions about a nuclear submarine deal with Australia and the UK that has angered France. President Biden will host the first in-person summit of the leaders of the Quad grouping as well. This will be attended by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Japanese Prime Minister Suga. At the UNGA, President Biden will also issue an all-hands-on-deck call for global cooperation to end the COVID-19 pandemic that's ravaged the world since early 2020. President Biden's also expected to highlight US commitments on climate change. WION has a large team on the ground in New York with 10 reporters in Washington and the Big Apple. We will be covering all of the developments as they happen. Susan Tirani now reports from UN headquarters.
The general debate, the centerpiece of the United Nations General Assembly, is set to begin on Tuesday. And Brazil's president, who will be the first speaker, will address the assembly in person. He already made headlines by refusing to take the COVID vaccine and attending the UNGA 76 in person. So it'll be interesting to see how the UN's honor system, vaccination honor system, will work. Something to take a look at. Also, in the morning, will be U.S. President Joe Biden, who will address the UN General Assembly for the first time as U.S. President, while he is expected to press China on climate, COVID, and human rights. He's also expected to say that he does not believe, quote, in the notion of a Cold War. The president is also expected to call for alliances and, quote unquote, intensive diplomacy. Later, Iran's new president, Ibrahim Raisi, will also address the General Assembly. He is not in New York, won't be addressing the GA in person, but rather in a recorded video address. It will be interesting to also listen to what he has to say, and his address will be worth a close listen amid the stalled nuclear talks in the framework of the JCPOA, or the Iran nuclear deal between Iran and the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, plus Germany. Of course, we'll bring you up to speed on the latest as the day progresses. For now, I'm Susan Tehrani in New York for WION World is One.